Hi, I'm Melissa and Tom from Knight Frank's agri-consultancy team. Melissa, just want to ask about regen agriculture. It's obviously an area which a lot of people are getting interested in, but what is in regen agriculture? I mean, can you define it?
Yeah, so regen agriculture is built on the foundations of soil health. So there are 5 principles of soil health, creating more resilient systems, more resilient soils, including diversity, so that you've got a more functioning ecosystem within the farm.
And Tom, what's the area of regen ag that most clients are sort of asking for advice on, really?
For most people, it's about how do I get started? What can I do to think about changing my business to go down a more sort of regenerative or sustainable farming route, and what are the first steps that I need to take, really? And also, I suppose, also to answer some of their concerns. Some people are very concerned about, what impact it's going to have financially, sort of economically on the business, and also, where do they go to get advice from on this? Because for some, it can feel quite sort of overwhelming. There's almost too much kind of information. There's already out there, so they're not quite sure where they need to turn to. And as Melissa said, this is about a series of principles. It isn't sort of a black and white kind of list of you do this and you are farming regeneratively. So that's why some people sort of struggle with knowing kind of where to start, really.
Yeah. And so what are the main challenges then? Is it just about how to get started? What about, is there any other challenges around regen ag which clients tend to sort of have?
I think people are nervous. There's this sort of perception of what we call kind of pub yields. People go to the pubs, they talk to other farmers, and they think, there's this huge myth that when you go regen farming, your yields are going to decline, and that isn't necessarily the case. They also think that, it's very capital intensive, you need huge input, whereas, we can quite easily manage that, manage people's expectations. You don't have to go all in at once. You can do a field at field at a time. You can do a tram line. You don't have to go all in. You can have a very slow, gradual transition depending on what you want your outcome to be.
Yeah, and that's really important, because for quite a lot of the businesses where we get involved, they farmed in a certain way for an awfully long time, and change, naturally they are concerned and cautious about that. But you're absolutely right. You can do this almost in bite-sized chunks, and you can adopt one of the principles to begin with, and then you could adopt something another one, and then you build on that. It's a journey, and I think we would probably say that for most businesses it's a 5-10 year journey, isn't it, really?
Yeah, that's it. Some changes you'll see instantly, you'll see maybe within a growing season. Other things like soil health, depending on where you start from, it can take sort of 5 to 10 years to see a difference. But once you get started on that journey, it's you do quickly see changes starting to happen.
And it's not just about changes in farming; it's about your approaching your mindset as well, isn't it? And how you do that, and how do you get to change your mindset along that way?
Yeah, hugely so. So, a lot of people, they start questioning why. Something might not be working with their system. They might be under economic pressure, or thinking about succession. And actually, regen farming can provide an answer to a lot of those things. It's more generational. I think it's kind of my generation, more younger people are taking an interest in this way of farming. We've grown up with climate change, and so people who are worried about that, they want to be doing good stuff. They want their farming systems to be resilient against drought or flooding, and regen farming can really help that by making your systems more resilient for the next generation.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting, useful phrase that he's using, is around resilience. For some people that they don't necessarily understand regen, or they have their own perception or ideas about it. If that's the case, then okay, we understand that. But think about it from a resilience point of view. Fundamentally, these systems will make your business more resilient for the future, more economically resilient to begin with. But then, yeah, absolutely. As the soil health builds, the soil fundamentally is the asset which you're growing all your crops from. And if that is healthier and more resilient to changing weather, to disease, to pest, whatever it might be, then that can only make your business healthier in the broadest kind of holistic sense. I think that's absolutely fair. Yes, but in a conventional, what we might call conventional, high input, high output system, it's all pretty prescriptive, and there's a pretty good set of blueprints and a map in terms of what you do, spray programs, fertilizer programs, etc., already out there. When you're going down this route, yes, you've got to be paying more attention and actually looking at what the crop is short of, what it needs, what it's asking for, and not just making assumptions. That's probably a fair way to say it.
Yeah, and I think people going down this way of farming, they are more aware of what's going on their farm. They notice more that, they hear certain birds or see certain birds that perhaps they wouldn't have noticed before. Certain flowering species, previously they might have sprayed them off, but actually now they see them as developing. They see them now as having a function. They're there for a reason, whether that be for beneficials to come in and act as like a natural insecticide. There's lots of benefits.
And so if you start off in Regen Ag then, and you're an arable farmer, would you say concentrate on doing the arable operation and converting that into Regen approach first before you sort of bring in the livestock, or how would you advise on that sort of situation?
I mean, the livestock plays a really key role and function in this, but it's often a biggest stumbling block actually. So arable farmers, albeit they might not understand some of the regen systems and principles and approaches, they understand growing crops, but livestock for some can be quite alien essentially. So yes, most businesses that we're involved in will start by making changes, on whatever magnitude, to the arable operation, and then the livestock will then follow after that. I think it's also important not to rush and try and do things too quickly in some of these situations. Make some changes, get those right, and that can take quite a lot of time and resource and to focus on. Get that right, then let's bring the next bit. It comes back to what Melissa said about this being a journey. This is a 5-10 year sort of program that you're going to go on.
So is Regen Ag then the answer to resilient farming?
Yeah, I think so. I think, like we've spoken about, you've got to have that functioning agro-ecosystem. Everything needs to be working. Your water cycle needs to be working. Your mineral cycle needs to be working. Your soil health needs to be functioning. And without that, I don't think you can have a resilient farming system.
So are we going to see Regen Ag as the predominant sort of approach to farming, do you think then?
I think we will, absolutely, moving forward. Whatever people may choose to term it, but yes, fundamentally a form of a sustainable farming model is the future, without a doubt.
Thank you very much for your time, it's really interesting. So if people are interested in the whole regenerative agriculture side of things, how can they get in touch?
Just get in touch with us directly through the website, and Melissa and I would be delighted to kind of have a chat with them.
Brilliant, thank you very much.